Hey everyone, it's Kyle here. Welcome back to another House of the Dragon episode breakdown. In today's video, we will be reviewing episode 2 of House of the Dragon, The Rogue Prince. If you haven't seen the episode, this video will contain major spoilers. Episode 2, titled The Rogue Prince, features the main theme of the so-called order of things, or shall we say disorder. We start off the episode with shots of men being tortured and eaten alive in the Stepstones due to the pirates from the free cities controlled by their leader, the Crab Feeder. While the small council is discussing the death of Lord Commander Sir Ryan Redwine and how to go about securing his future replacement, Corlys Velaryon bursts into the council in rage that 4 ships, including one with his own banner and men, was destroyed by the Crab Feeder. We heard Corlys voice his opinion loud and clear in the first episode on how this is a problem that should be dealt with here and now, considering if this triad takes hold of this specific location, it can control and disrupt trading routes, food routes, and even mess with the economy. We hear Corlys suggest that they should burn out this Crab Feeder, which seemingly has Rhaenyra's support, who suggests that dragon riders could easily take care of this problem and literally burn him out. But Viserys and the other men of the council, they have other plans, to approach this cautiously with diplomacy. Viserys does say that he has reached out to Pentos and Volantis to try and solve this problem of the Stepstones, which makes sense considering they've never openly declared war with the free cities. This scene is a great first focus point on the overarching theme of the episode of order versus disorder, inaction versus inaction. Now, on one hand, they could act with the show of force, but there would be consequences for that show of force. However, if you don't act, the consequences could be just as bad, while also showing that the king is weak with his inaction. This is also displayed beautifully in the next scene with new Lord Commander Harold Westerling, Rhaenyra, and Otto Hightower. We see that the Lord Commander has chosen an array of choices of men to possibly join the Kingsguard, with the slight problem that only one of the men, Sir Criston Cole, has actually seen live action on the battlefield. We see Sir Otto Hightower suggest there is a certain order to things in how they choose these candidates, and that you don't want to piss off certain houses like House Mallister or Crakehall and strain certain royal relationships that the crown has. But Rhaenyra brings up a really good point, in that titles and statuses and everything, and with that, there should be men on the Kingsguard who are trained to actually protect him through combat. I really love the power dynamic in this scene. Both men make their suggestions to Rhaenyra on how to go about this sort of business, but Rhaenyra really puts her foot down in the same way that Otto Hightower cut her off from voicing her opinion to the small council. I think that it's pretty clear that Rhaenyra has a fascination with Sir Criston Cole, in that she is more than likely attracted to him physically, but also that he genuinely put on an impressive display at the tourney, besting her uncle Daemon Targaryen. Now, her father did say she was the one who could choose after all, and it does make sense that she would play her own little game of politics considering she observes what they do on the small council. Rhaenyra isn't the only one doing some observing in this episode. We see Rhaenys Targaryen doing this as well. Conversation between Rhaenyra and Rhaenys highlights the order of things, but the hard truth and emotional trauma women share because of the patriarchal norms in Westeros. It makes sense that Rhaenys would approach Rhaenyra and let her know that not everything is going to be bubblegums and roses now that she's named her father's heir. She wants to let Rhaenyra know that realistically, even though she's named the heir, that the men of the small council and the lords of Westeros will push for Viserys to find a new wife and keep producing male heirs. It's the duty of the king to do so, and while Rhaenyra is strong, intelligent, and open-minded about how things can progress forward in Westeros, Rhaenys is right. Men would rather set Westeros ablaze by torch than light the way for a queen. We see a plethora of different conversations in this episode involving King Viserys, including conversations with him and Rhaenyra in private, conversations with him and Alicent Hightower in private, and a lot of small council meetings. Everyone is pushing him to find a new wife so that he can produce new heirs, and we see this incredibly difficult conversation that he has with Laena Velaryon, who's only 12, pushed onto him by Corlys Velaryon and his wife Rhaenys. It makes sense that they would join their two houses and bloodlines, considering their lineage both connects to the deep family roots of House Targaryen. Joining their houses to not only produce heirs, but also fight back and burn out the Crab Feeder and the Triad from the Stepstones would be seen as a major power move for the king. Now, while I don't personally believe Viserys to be a strong king, I do feel sorry for him in that we see him still struggling with his grief over the loss of his beloved wife, Queen Aemma, which is still affecting him 6 months later. It's something that I've come to understand personally in losing my mother over just a year ago. It still affects me now every day and weighs me down sometimes. It's not an easy thing to talk about for anyone, but I really enjoyed the scenes between him and Rhaenyra where they do choose to open up to each other, sharing the love they had for Queen Aemma and how much of an impact she had on their lives. Earlier in the episode, we see Viserys request that Alicent help Rhaenyra with her grief. It's nice to see that the genuine part of their friendship still exists and that they can confide in each other in moments of vulnerability. However, we also know that Alicent has been meeting with the king for 6 months in secret, and it's something that Viserys doesn't want Rhaenyra to find out, as he fears she wouldn't understand why he's meeting with her. There's a few moments that stood out to me in the interactions between King Viserys and Alicent, but the one that really stood out to me the most in particular was when Viserys drops the dragon and it breaks on the floor, and Alicent brings it back to him fixed later as a gift. I can't help but feel like this is a big moment in foreshadowing in that Alicent will help fix some of the king's problems and himself, in that he confides with her about his grief and her grief, but also in that the moment Alicent gives him the fixed dragon, that he ultimately decides that she will be his next queen. You can definitely sense a fear within King Viserys. He fears that Rhaenyra would say something to the effect of, "You can open up to my best friend, but not your own daughter," which begs to the question, do they actually really trust each other? We see Rhaenyra talk openly during the small council, which Viserys shuts down. We see Rhaenyra act without his consent to fly to Dragonstone to try and put a stop to the possible bloodshed, which leads to him getting angry. It's clear that the lines of communication here are being broken, as communication does not seem to be House Targaryen's strength, because people have different ideas about how the order of things should be done. This leads in nicely and connects to the showdown at Dragonstone with Daemon Targaryen and Otto Hightower. We learn early on in the episode from Corlys Velaryon that Daemon has been squatting at Dragonstone for over 6 months with the Gold Cloaks and proclaimed himself the Prince of Dragonstone. This was one of my favorite scenes of the episode, and while Daemon wasn't featured as much in the episode, named the Rogue Prince as I would have liked, it was absolutely epic. The atmosphere with the mist surrounding the Long Bridge was awesome. Caraxes overlooking the city watching the Gold Cloaks, and Daemon with his stolen dragon egg wearing black was awesome. And the Kingsguard with a newly anointed Criston Cole and Otto Hightower wearing green on one side with Rhaenyra riding in on Cyrax through the clouds was an absolutely amazing moment. It's quite clear that Daemon and Otto have years of dislike bubbling to the surface, which is why Otto volunteered to get the opportunity and the chance to get rid of Daemon, someone who he views as a threat to his long game once and for all. Daemon knows exactly what he's doing here as well, knowing that stealing a dragon egg that would have gone to his dead son Balon would make him extremely angry. It's a risky move for both parties, which is why the appearance of Rhaenyra with Cyrax making the impact that she does, stealing both their thunder, is so badass. It's really only the beginning of the impact she is going to have on this story with her fierce independence, but also Daemon and Otto as well. We see the clear foreshadowing of the blacks versus the green here. And while it would have been awesome to see Caraxes go absolutely insane and melt Otto Hightower in his armor, I would love to see that. There will be plenty of time for that to go forward now that Corlys Velaryon reached out to Daemon, calling him to Driftmark to bridge an alliance and also conquer the Stepstones and kill Crabfeeder. After the spurning of Lyanna Velaryon from King Viserys, it's clear that Corlys believes his input isn't being valued anymore. He's someone who knows his worth, quite literally, as the richest man in Westeros, but also as someone who sees things for what they are. King Viserys picking Alicent obviously pleased Otto Hightower and strengthened his alliance with one of the most wealthy and strongest houses in Westeros, but Viserys is also left with one fewer ally on the small council. It's what makes the meeting between Daemon and Corlys so interesting, in that Daemon tells the truth. Viserys needs to be protected from himself and the vultures around him. Earlier in the episode, we saw Otto give the command to his daughter Alicent to bed with him while he was going to be going to Dragonstone. It played into Otto's hands perfectly, even though Viserys was told that he should marry Lyanna and that it was a no-brainer for him. Otto sending Alicent to meet with him in his moments of vulnerability for 6 months built trust with Alicent. Alicent building trust with Viserys and leveling with his grief ultimately led to this moment. But as we see, Corlys isn't the only ally he's about to lose. He's about to lose the trust of his named heir, Rhaenyra, who storms off after looking Alicent in the eyes after he announces that he's going to marry her. I think she knows right then and there she's been betrayed, now understanding exactly what Rhaenys was trying to tell her earlier in the episode. And while Westeros isn't burning to the ground just yet, relationships are now set aflame, with the future now being set in motion. This episode did a really good job focusing on the theme of the order of things and disorder, and also connecting with the emotions of hope and fear, hoping that your actions will lead to good things, but also fear and inaction creating consequences as well. What did you think of the episode, and what were your favorite moments? Please let me know in the comments section what your favorite scenes and moments from the episode were. If you got this far, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to be doing lots more House of the Dragon videos, including a trailer breakdown video, a video discussing the opening sequence, theory videos, and live streams. So if you're into that sort of thing, feel free to come back and check those videos out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.